Joining me now live to discuss this is visiting fellow at the US Studies Centre and Sky News contributor Bruce Wolpe. Bruce, good morning. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Danica, and good morning to you. A very, very busy day in Washington and a lot ahead.
It certainly is. In terms of this Iran situation, how is it playing out in Washington, particularly given that this is an election year?
There is general consensus that, of course, Soleimani was a terribly bad actor and deserves to meet justice. The question is whether this was the right thing to do at this time and were consequences thought through. And you have Democrats who are criticizing that aspect of it, questioning the president's judgment, his strategic vision. Republicans solidly lined up behind the president. And the question is really what happens in the next few days. As you have said, both sides are edging towards a brink where Iran has threatened to strike. The U.S. is ready to strike back. And so there are two questions. How large will the Iran vengeance attack be? And what will it hit? And then how does the United States absorb it? And what does the United States do? And I think that issue leads to the question, does the United States strike back directly inside Iran if something terrible happens? And then what happens after that? So this is where we are in real time with a lot of options, all with dangerous consequences being played out.
And how are the Democrats reacting to this situation?
Essentially, they want, and Speaker Pelosi will bring to the House floor in the next 48 hours or so, a resolution requiring the president to seek the approval of Congress for a military strike, for war with Iran. It will pass the House, it will not pass the Senate, and so will not be binding on the president. But I think they want to open up a discussion as to under what conditions should the United States go to war with Iran, and to have the president accountable under that. So a big debate. What are we going to do? Why? When? Will be underway in Washington, flowing out to the country in the next few days.
Bruce, how could this play out with voters, given that there is this genuine threat of war?
Well, as you saw from what the president said in the White House, he is talking to the country, and he's also talking to his party in Congress, and he's talking to his base. We had to take this action. It makes America safer. What else do you expect me to do? This is why you elected me president. Democrats are questioning his judgment, again, his strategic vision, and whether he has the proper temperament, or is he too volatile, reckless, to be the commander-in-chief and get us into a situation, in part, where we are today. And that's what they're taking to the to Democratic primaries voters in the early states, and we'll take it nationally. So you have the same partisan divisions we've had on every other issue extends to this. But again, the life and death stakes involved are extraordinarily high.
Bruce, let's move on to impeachment now. Former US National Security Advisor John Bolton says that he will actually testify at Donald Trump's impeachment trial if subpoenaed by the Senate. What does this mean for Donald Trump?
Before we get to that question, Danica, there is some breaking news out of the Senate within the past hour. Senator McConnell has announced that he has the votes to proceed with the trial without witnesses. Again, the Senate sets the rules for the trial. A majority of the Senate is required to set those rules. There are 53 out of 100 senators who are Republicans, and McConnell says he has the votes to set the rules. And what he wants to do is proceed with the trial without any guarantee that any witnesses, including John Bolton, will be called to testify. So what would happen is you would have the articles of impeachment would come over. We can come back to that if you wish. Would come over. The trial would begin. The House managers would present the case. The House defenders on the Judiciary Committee and the president's lawyers would defend the case. And then the Senate gets to a vote. Do we want witnesses to further amplify the case and take it further, or do we want to proceed to reach a judgment based on what we know on the trial? So Nancy Pelosi, as you know, said, I'm not sending the articles of impeachment over until we have a bona fide fair trial, and a fair trial involves witnesses. I think that has now played out to as far as it can, and I would expect Speaker Pelosi to send the articles of impeachment over within the next 24 hours or so. But that remains to be seen. But in any event, McConnell is confident he can proceed on a trial on a basis that he wants that is friendly to what President Trump wants.
An interesting development there in the last hour or so. Bruce Wolpe, appreciate your analysis. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Danica.